Hey, I'm Eric, and I want to talk to you about something that has incredible impact on your life. It's something called an identity. We all have one. It's the answer to the question, who am I? And right now, we're going to talk about how to discover who we are. Hey, my name is Eric, and you might not know me, and I probably don't know you, but I already know something about you, and you already know something about me. This thing is true of everybody who has ever lived. It's true of your best friends, true of your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parents, your kids. It's true of absolutely everybody. And here's that thing. We all have a story that we tell ourselves about ourselves. We all have a story we tell ourselves about ourselves. And by story, I don't mean something made up. I mean a plot line, a narrative, a thread that runs through your life that explains your life. We all have a story like this. And for most people, those stories run down a few familiar roads. Everybody has a story they tell themselves about themselves, and most people have a story that kind of goes down a few main highways. It sounds something like this, you know, I am what I do. The story I tell myself about myself is really all about what I achieve. I am what I do. Or there's this one, I am what's been done to me. The story I tell myself about myself is really about what's happened to me in life. There's this one, I am what I feel. Whatever I feel most strongly, well, that's the strongest story that I tell myself about myself throughout my life. There's this one, I am what I want to be. And so what I want to be, what I wish I was, that's the story I'm going to tell myself about myself. So we all have a story we tell ourselves about ourselves. Now here's the thing. If the story we tell ourselves about ourselves is based on what we accomplish, then the story is only as strong as our most recent accomplishment, or it's as fragile as our most recent failure. I mean, for some of us, I am what others think of me. And if that's true, then my worth and the story I tell myself about myself, it really is a slave to other people's thoughts and opinions about me. And I don't know about you, but I've tried to live down those roads and go down those paths, and ultimately, it led me to not know who I really was. But there is another story that we can tell ourselves about ourselves. And what I'm talking about in this short video is something called an identity. An identity is your sense of self, it's your sense of worth, and we all have one. And because an identity is a very complex thing, I think the best way to think of identity is to think of our identities as a deck of cards. Think of your identity as a deck of cards. Who you are is made up of a lot of different components. Who I am, it's made up of a lot of different components. Like inside my deck is this component, Dad. I'm a dad to Nora and Jack, my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old. Now, by the way, my kids have stories they tell themselves about themselves. Jack came up to me the other day and he said, Dad, I'm stronger than you, as he's flexing. One day he jumped on a chair and said, Dad, look, I'm taller than you. One time Jack said to me, Dad, I can't wait till I'm a dad. And I said, how come, buddy? And he said, because then I can have a beard and drink beer, right? I mean, these are the stories that my kids are telling themselves about themselves. So they have an identity and I have an identity. And so Dad's a part of my identity, and it's somewhere in my deck, but there's more. I'm also a husband to Carissa. We've been married a little over 12 years. That's in my deck. I'm a son to my parents. That's also in my deck. What else? I'm a golfer, average at best, but golfer is that's in my deck somewhere. I like to ride bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes, whatever it is. I like to pedal, so I spelled it wrong. Cyclist is it's in my deck. You know, there's something else that's in my deck too. I've dedicated my life, devoted my life to following Jesus. So Jesus follower, it too is in my deck. And so our identities, they're very complex. They're made up of a lot of different parts, but here's what's so important. With any deck of cards, there's always a top card. And throughout our lives, our identities, it's as if they're getting shuffled up. And certain cards are worth more, certain cards are worth less, but certain cards rise to the top. And in all of our lives, there's a top card, just like there is in every deck. And it's the top card that gets played first in the most important situations of life. It's the card we play first in our most important relationships in life. When life goes south, we can say, hey, you know what, don't worry, at least you still have this. This is still true about you. At least you still have worth because of this. And that really is our top card. So here's the thing, if your top card is your achievements, then here's what can happen. You can be driven to have to accomplish at all costs. If your top card is what other people think about you in relationships, then your top card, your sense of self, your sense of worth, it might be really enslaved to someone else's opinions of you. And so I've tried all of this. I've lived all of this. And then one day in my life, I was about 18. After all these possible approaches to an identity, all these possible stories that I could tell myself about myself, the stories of achievement and success and popularity and feelings and what I wanted to be, when all those had eventually become dead-end roads, I heard a different story. A story about me that rooted my sense of self and worth in someone outside of me. Someone that secured my worth based on what they did, not what I do. Someone that said I had value regardless of how bad my most recent failure was, or a value that didn't just grow every time I accomplished something new. And this story was about Jesus. And if you're not a Jesus follower, I think it's worth considering a couple things here. See, we all have a story we tell ourselves about ourselves, but Jesus offers us a story too. He offers us a story where our worth is not rooted in what we've done. Our worth is not enslaved to our failures. Our worth is not fixed on what other people say. Our significance is not based on what we feel. It's based on something beyond all of that, which means it's secure. A worth that's secure, a sense of self that is secure, a story that is secure. And one man named Paul in the first century described it like this. He was writing to his friends in the city of Galatia. He says, I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. The Apostle Paul had a story that he told himself about himself, and it became Jesus. It was the Jesus story that he told himself about himself. See, Jesus offers us an identity. A story about us that means we will always have purpose, we will always have worth, we will never be alone. We will not be what people have done to us. We will be what Jesus has already done for us. And so here's what that sounds like. I delight, this is the story I tell myself about myself. I delight in defining myself by what Jesus has done, not in what I do. So if you're not a Jesus follower, if you're processing him, the reason people would choose to follow after Jesus and to let him be the story they tell themselves about themselves is because there's no other story like that. It's a better story than a story of performance, a better story than a story of accomplishment or feeling or what someone else has done to us or someone else's opinion of us. It's a story better than that and beyond that, and it is a true story. So I want to wrap up with this. What's the story you tell yourself about yourself? And when your story is the Jesus story that you tell yourself about yourself, it can free you from the shame of the past. It can free you from a lack of purpose in the present, and it can secure your worth for a long time. So I want you to answer the question, who are you? What's the story you tell yourself about yourself? You have a story now. So let me ask this question. What's the story going forward? Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on SMCC Shorts.